back. It is a Nerc update. We haven't done one of these in a long time. Excited to be back in the studio, i.e. my office. This episode is going to be sponsored by Augustine Concrete and Masonry. That's Len Valerio, everyone's favorite crazy goaltender. Len has been grinding it out in the concrete and masonry business. So if you need any concrete work done, come to me for the coatings. Go to Len to replace your concrete. We've actually been working together on a few different projects. He just completed a project for a job that I had to walk away from because the concrete was so bad. Len got it done. That's it for that. This epi, we're going to focus a lot on the Sunday division because the Sunday division's in its last week of the season. We do have some weeknight playoffs starting next week in the silver and gold division, so we'll touch on that, and then we'll probably follow up with another video breaking down more so the weeknight playoff preview. Do want to get Deeves and Benny back in the mix here so we can start going through some things with them, doing our predictions. But with Sundays, it's hot and heavy on Sundays because we have a ton of implications for our Sunday division with some big games and a ton of movement that can really happen in the Sunday division. So we're going to start out first with the division that's already set for playoffs, which is our Sunday Silver. Now, as I explained, when we have smaller divisions that are 4 teams, we will move it down to a 9-game season and provide a best-of-3 playoffs. Basically, your 10th game becomes a playoff game instead of playing another regular season game. So instead of playing, one team 4 times, you're going to play everybody 3, so that gives you your 9 games, and then your 10th game is going to basically just be replaced by a playoff game. So with that being said, we have our matchups set. Now, the Sunday division the past couple seasons has been a little bit skewed. I'd put a Liberty team in, took some guys from the bronze divisions, and made another silver team because we needed one. We tried the Hippos in that division. They didn't really fare well. They're an older team. They're a good older team, don't get me wrong, but they just couldn't hang with the silver teams. Like, every time we put them in there, if they didn't have their full team, they're getting crushed in the games. So we kind of put together this Liberty team to kind of give it the 4 teams that it is today. And this year, what I kind of did was I went to a couple guys that are playing Platinum, Dan Dolan and Wakefield, and said, hey, I need to get you guys on 2 teams, kind of balance it out, knowing that DHC was going to be getting guys like Detra, Shane Vasallo, and really the whole gold team right back. So I knew that they were going to pick up some steam. They picked up Joe Brennan as well, Malvo. So they've become a really good team as well. And a lot of these games, have been very close. Really, aside from the Stickheads, and they've just had a weird season. They have Nick Foster on their team as well, who's having a baby, so he's missed a lot. Dolan's missed a few games as well. So they're the only team with a minus differential. It just shows you how, really stacked this division is. So, and even the top 2 teams are a +9 and +8. That's not a lot. That's basically winning a game every game by 1 goal. So pretty cool, to see the division go this way. So in first place, we have the Hounds. Played with the Hounds as a goaltender. Once Shane Fisher came back from his injury, Shane Fisher hopped back in net, and them has been backstopping them for a while now. They picked up Wakefield, right? So that was kind of the deal. He's good friends with a bunch of those guys, so they picked up Wakefield to kind of give them that scoring power, and really just a guy who he's played over in France, and since he's come back, it's honestly, and we've all kind of told him this, he's been unbelievable since he's come back. He's playing with an edge. He's got the scoring ability that he's always had, but he's come back, I think, a little more mature and a little more aware of how to control a game, where before it was a lot of just I need to score, I need to score, I need to score. He's come back and actually been more of a control guy for this team, and I think that's helped the Hounds tremendously. Wakefield has really taken that team and settled them down. The Hounds' biggest issue has always been that they want to go. So they're going to be facing off against the Stickheads. Now, again, like I said, Stickheads have had a weird season where they've had a bunch of games with 5 or 6 guys. And a bunch of the games that they've had, those 5 or 6, they've been missing probably 3 of their top 4 players in Dan Dolan, Nick Foster, and Blake Bagden. Pat's been there a lot. Savs is obviously an unreal goaltender. So she's kind of, she's been trying to settle it in, but again, without some of that firepower. and the control that those guys can provide, it does hurt. So like when our team played the Stickheads and they had Dolan and Foster, they beat us. It was I think maybe a late win at the end. So we've kind of traded back and forth with them. But those guys really do control that game. So the Hounds are going to be facing off against the Stickheads in a best of 3. That's going to start this week. And then the other matchup is going to be Liberty versus the Degenerates. I spoke about the Degenerates earlier. They have more of this team that has been playing together for so long, and they're just so well-rounded that when they play the right way, they could be very dangerous. So these playoff matchups, I mean, I can tell you right now, some of the Hounds guys think that they got sandbagged a little bit by having the Stickheads finishing that bottom seed. And again, if the Stickheads would have had, maybe one more win in there that gets them to 12 points, and DHC had an overtime the other day with the shootout, if that would have ended in regulation, that would have been a flop right there. And same with us, if the Hounds would have lost in that shootout and, we would have won an extra game, this could have moved a lot there. So you're looking at the first 3 teams of 17 points, 15 points, and 13 points. So all right neck and neck. And then the Stickheads had 9 points, so they're not even that far off. So Sunday Silver is completely changed. Like years ago, before COVID, our Sunday Silver was awesome. We had the Bush Vipers. Kraken used to play on Sundays. We had, I forget what they were called, but they used to wear the tuxedo jerseys with Wilson and all those guys. They had a silver team. Benny Brullier, they were a good Sunday team as well. So the Sunday division, Silver division, is back. And it's been really balanced. It's been really fun. The games have been high scoring. You're looking at 59 goals, 4 in 9 games for the Hounds, 45 for us, 47 for the D-Gens, and 52 for the Stickheads. So these games have been shootouts, nonetheless. So really excited for that playoffs. That's going to start this week at 3:50 and 4:40. So they're going to be right in the middle of the day, which is awesome. And what's awesome about this Silver Division really comes from and stems from the Bronze Early Division guys hanging out and watching those games, and then you get the transition of the Bronze Late guys coming in for that second half. So it creates a really cool atmosphere, and a lot of people have been watching these Silver games. I know the new team we'll talk about in the Bronze Late, the Forge, they've had guys up there 2 games early just watching these Silver games because they're a new team. They wanted to kind of, they're a bunch of outdoor guys. They wanted to see kind of what indoor is all about and what controlled roller is like, and they're getting to see that every week at this point. So moving into the Bronze Early. Now the Bronze Early and Bronze Late, both these divisions do not have their playoffs set yet. But there is a ton of implications and a ton of movement that can happen here in this last week. So they're all at their 9th game of the season. In first place right now, and again, these divisions do split. My dog's going nuts, but these divisions split into a top 4, bottom 4 situation. So everyone gets right into a semifinal and then a championship. Our top 4 as it stands today would be for the Bronze Early. A, Wolfpack, Honeybees, Gabagools, and Thundercats. With that being said, the Thundercats could go from a 4th place all the way up to a 2nd place technically. The Gabagools, they could go from a 3rd place to I don't think they can get the first. They have the exact same record. It would come down to goal differential. The differential's pretty low at this point, so they can't get that first place, but they could jump to a 2nd. Honeybees could jump into a 1st place, and the Wolfpack could slide down. So Wolfpack is holding position right now as that 1st seed, but that could change all this week, right? And we're going to look at some of the matchups and kind of make some predictions there as well at the end. So that top 4 is very, very close. With that being said, you also have a team in Brickhouse sitting at 5th who can maybe jump up into the A or stay down in the B. So we're going to have to see what happens with that because they're sitting just 3 points behind the Thundercats. Basically, if the Thundercats were to lose this week, the Brickhouse has a better differential. And then look at the head-to-head situation. But that could be a flip right there as well. So our bottom 4 right now as it stands, you would have Brickhouse, Pylons, Inebriators, and then the Bumblehawks. Bumblehawks are a team that moved from the late to the early, so they're going through a little bit of a transition of just getting used to some of those teams that have been playing against each other for years. So they're getting a little taste of just, kind of a new division. Brickhouse sitting at the top there. Brickhouse is kind of notorious for being in the middle of the pack a lot, and then always, not always, but they tend to fall into that bottom bracket sometimes, and they tend to be the heavy hitter in that bottom bracket. So it's cool because even with the Bumblehawks, they still have 2 wins. Inebriators have 2 wins. Pylons, they've had kind of a rough season with attendance. They have 3 wins. So, and Brickhouse with 4. So they're all within a win or 2 of each other. So really tight division in that bronze early, and I love that bronze early has been around forever. I mean, we used to have the really early slots, and I know guys miss that. We're never going to get that back because of the roller derby, but nevertheless, we still have a pretty strong division. And during Eagle season, to have 8 teams in that division is awesome because Eagles tend to have a lot of those 1 o'clock games, so guys are really showing their commitment there. So moving on to the Bronze Late. Now, Bronze Late's a little bit different, right? So Bronze Late, there is some movement that can happen. Hippos have secured first place in Bronze Late. They're 27 points, undefeated thus far. But they played a team in the free agents, and I've hopped on the free agents due to some things that happened with guys that I had for them that just kind of backed out last minute. But the Hippos have locked in first place. There's nobody touching them at this point. Nobody can catch them. But from 2 to 4, there could be some changement. Now, in 4th place right now, you have the Law Dogs. In 3rd place, you have Rocco's. And then in 2nd place, you have the Trash Pandas. The Trash Pandas could fall if Rocco's wins this week and the Trash Pandas lose. And then the Law Dogs, they'd have to have a pretty big win because the differential, they're 7 goals behind Rocco's. But if everything stayed today and the Law Dogs won, they could potentially jump Rocco's into a 3rd seed. And I think, let's just say those the Trash Pandas and Rocco's both lose. The Law Dogs probably are going to push for that third seed because they don't want to play the Hippos in a round 1. I know they have a little bit of a rivalry with those guys, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes about with that. And then in our bottom 4, we have the Gladiators in 5th place. Gladiators could technically jump up as well, and they could catch the Law Dogs. Unfortunately, the Hat-Trick Swayzes, they cannot jump up, so they're going to be in that B bracket along with the free agents. And then in last place, the Forge, who got the first win this weekend against Rocco's, who had a light roster. So Forge is sticking in last. They can't catch the free agents, but the free agents and Hat-Trick Swayzes, they could flip-flop spots, but again, they're going to wind up playing each other in that first round of playoffs. And then the Gladiators are kind of like that flex team that can go either way. So looking at it this week, let's look at some of these matchups and see what matters. We have the Gobblegools playing the Inebriators. We have the Brickhouse Tigers playing the Bumblehawks. Wolfpack and Honeybees, that is the game. That is the swing game right there. They will get the head-to-head matchup if the Bumblehawks can upset the Wolfpack there. Thundercats and Pylons are the last bronze early game, so there could be some movement there, right? A lot of these teams could, better themselves with positioning. Then we have our 2 silver games that separate it. You got the Stickheads and the Hounds. That's going to be the first game of the slate, game 1 of that semifinal. Then D-Gens versus Liberty. That's going to be the second game of the silver slate for that second semifinal game. Then we have Hippos taking on the Rocco's. So that's an important game for Rocco's, right? Playing a heavy hitter in the Hippos. If they could sneak out a win, they're going to secure their spot in that 3rd seed, and maybe even a 2nd seed. We have the Trash Pandas playing Hat-Trick Swayzes. Now, it's a big game for the Trash Pandas, so they have to get a win there. Free agents playing the Law Dogs. Again, big game for the Law Dogs, as we had mentioned, and for the free agents in a way. It's really just for seeding, and there's no advantage being home or away in these matchups. And then the last game of the night is going to be the Forge versus the Gladiators. Again, Gladiators, it's a big game for them because if they win and Law Dogs lose, it could be one of those swing matches where the Gladiators will jump up into that Bronze Late A division. Lastly, we're just going to touch real quickly on the weeknight gold and silver because these teams are now in their playoffs. So we're just going to pull it up here for the gold. So the gold division. So these playoffs are, there is one more gold game. So that's going to take place next week. The other teams are, pretty much on a bye. Not on a bye. There's one more gold game this week, and then they will start next week. So there is one more gold game, but the placement is already set for all of these. So we will have our 2-3 matchup between DHC and the Hawks, and then we'll have our 1-4 matchup with Bernsey and D5. Now, with that being said, we're switching over to the weeknight. So our gold division is really stacked. I mean, honestly, these teams could play platinum. It's just there's so many guys that play in both divisions. That's why they're not just one big division. But Bernsey and D5. I'm sure Bernsey's happy not to see DHC in the first round for once, but you're not really getting a break with playing D5 because when D5 has their full roster, they're a deadly team, and Adrian versus Diesel is a goaltending matchup for the ages, I would say. And I would say even in that 2-3 matchup, you have Lenny versus Jimmy Burkett. Jimmy Burkett, let's give the kid some, let's put some respect on his name. Jimmy Burkett has come in here into a gold division, which he hasn't played in a long time. He played silver for Sundays for a little bit, but he hasn't played the gold division in a long time. He's come in and he was lights. We played him last week. He was lights out. So the goaltending is really deep in that division, but I think that Diesel-Adrian matchup is going to be awesome. Both goalies don't give up a ton of goals. Both goalies, when they're hot, they're hard to beat. Like, straight up, you can't beat them. It has to be dirty, gritty. It has to be secondary chances and things like that. So that's going to be the first set of games. That's going to be the first set of semifinal games next week on the 13th, 9:30, 10:20. They're the late games that week. And then the second set of games is going to be the same thing, 9:30, 10:20. The following week, the teams will just kind of flip-flop, going from a 9:30 to a 10:20 and then vice versa. So that's kind of our gold matchup there. In our silver matchup, there is technically a game that does matter. So I'm going to pull this up here. With our silver matchup, it's really just a positioning thing. The Hitmen are in second place right now. We play the Mad Elfers actually this week. So Mad Elfers could technically jump us, but we're still going to wind up playing each other. So like I said, we're not doing last change and anything line matching. Nobody's doing that in men's league, and if you are, you're crazy. But our silver matchups are going to go as followed. We're going to have our first place team, the Deuces, taking on the Renegades, and then the second and third is going to be the Hitmen versus the Mad Elfers. So those games are going to kick off next Thursday as well. Again, one more regular season game left for those guys this Thursday. Now with our Deuces, so Deuces versus Renegades is going to be 7:50 on the 13th, and then 8:40 is going to be the Elfers versus the Hitmen, and then the following week is going to be a Wednesday game. It's going to be 8:40 p.m. Deuces versus the Renegades and Mad Elfers versus the Hitmen. We're going to do a deeper dive into this when we preview the whole Weeknight Hockey League playoffs. We'll have games that have been played already, so we'll know a little bit more about where those series stand. But that's going to be another really good matchup and a really, really good playoff. I mean, the Silver Division's gotten so good at this point. Again, it's on par with the Gold Division at this point. You're kind of just dealing with the same thing. When you have Platinum and Gold, you have guys that cross over, and then you have Gold and Silver guys cross over. So it's just one of those things where allow guys to play two divisions. You separate the teams a little bit. Hitmen, the old threat level Midnight, have jumped up from the Bronze Division into that Silver Division. So we've actually been playing really good in the Silver Division. I actually played goalie for them. Haven't played goalie the past two games, and I haven't won a game in net. It's been fill-in goalie. So I've been away a lot and missed a lot of games. So we've had fill-ins kind of just kind of carrying the load there. So I'm hopping back in net this week for the playoff push, rejuvenated, ready to go for the Hitmen, and we'll be basically playing Elfers like 3 games in a row. So that could get ugly. It could get heated. The Elfers are not a team that a lot of guys like playing because they're young, they're fast, they talk shit. Same thing with our team and the Hitmen. I think we've calmed down a little bit since I've been on the team. Just told the guys like, hey, we can't really get into a lot of bullshit out here. So it's going to be interesting. Good silver matchup. We'll break those down further next week when we do the Weeknight Hockey League divisions. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is just the Bronze Division. The Bronze Division kind of got, it's not sewered per se, but it just kind of wound up being one of those weird ones because we had an odd number of teams. But what's going to wind up happening is that Bronze Division is going to wind up getting a best-of-3 series. So they're going to wind up getting a best-of-3, and that best-of-3 isn't really going to be determined until next week. So we don't really know the matchups yet. There could be a ton of movement in that Bronze Division as well. But I did want to say we did wind up figuring out a way to make that a best-of-3. So you'll have your 4-5 playing game, and then after that, your 1 versus 4-5 and your 2-3s will be best-of-3s. So I did adjust the schedule. I moved some things around, but it's really the movement comes with the final week of the season where if we have game 3s, I have some opening slots on that Monday and Tuesday, December 1st and 2nd. And basically all those games on December 1st will just kind of move to that December 2nd time. So we still have a month before any of that happens. So plenty of time to make those adjustments. But even in that division, it's in gridlock, right? You have a bunch of teams that can all move. So depending on what Vancher does, if they win their next couple games, they'll jump Carmen's place. Carmen's place could jump Wet Seals. Wet Seals could jump Wet Sox, and Wet Sox could jump the Stickhead. So another really good division. Like, you have some minus goal differentials in there, but ultimately, like, it's been a really, really solid division. And since we're at it, we might as well just kind of touch on the Copper divisions, just kind of where we are with things. Copper A and B will be a split of top 5, bottom 5. Copper C is going to be just a 6-team playoff, so you're going to have your 1 and 2 with a bye, 3, 6, 4, 5s. And then your Copper D, I wound up splitting this into a Copper D and E, solely for the fact that I think the teams at the bottom of Copper D in a playoff against each other, that 5 through 8 seeding, it would be a really, really good playoff series. So I really wanted to split that to make everyone have let everyone have a really good chance at winning something, because you have a team in Fusion who their goal differential is not great. They are a new team as well, kind of a throw together of a lot of these Mount Laurel guys who've come in here, and they're not getting killed in games. Every once in a while they will, but they're staying in a lot of games. They don't even have a win yet, but I could see them taking on a Flying Hellfish and it being a really good game. And then you have a team like Double Agents, who last year didn't really get any wins, I think, until like the last week. They've now got 2 wins stacked under their belt. Brian Robinson's been playing awesome in net for them. So that Copper D division originally wasn't going to be a split. It was going to be a 1 through 8, but kind of looked at the standings and said, we have some really heavy hitters at the top with the Stranglers, Bad News Bears, Turbulence, and Mayfair, and Lower Mayfair. And again, that Lower Mayfair and Flying Hellfish could be a flip, depending on how the rest of the season shakes out. Flying Hellfish do have a game in hand. Lower Mayfair is going to have a week off. They had to do a double, but Flying Hellfish still have 2 games to make up. Same with Bad News Bears and Turbulence. So you're going to see a little bit of a change there as well. So that's pretty much it for where we are with things. The live stream's been great. I think it's been a huge success, thanks to Devo setting that up, making it really good for us. A lot of guys have been clipping games and things like that. I know the camera's not the greatest, but we're not buying $1,000 worth of camera equipment. We will have some cool things we're trying. One of my longtime friends, Paul Trishon from high school, has been playing in the leagues with Turtle Power. He's going to get some GoPros. We're going to set them up for some of the playoffs. What we're hoping for is that we can get all the championship games with multiple camera angles on GoPros, like in the corners and on the benches and stuff like that, and maybe make some highlight clips out of those championship games, at least for all the divisions in the weeknight and Sundays. And then we're going to be doing a little more with like the Platinum division, because that division is so highly skilled. We're going to be testing out some things that we want to maybe do in the future and kind of dial this thing back into kind of how it used to be. This season, I've really been focused on, in the first season, which is the fall season, I really focused on getting all these teams aligned. So people were, kind of questioning the whole Copper A-B thing in the beginning. But really, like, you look at a team like the Wolf Pups, who was one of those teams kind of questioning why I did it that way. They have 3 wins. Like, they're in the bottom half of that division now, and that's fine. But, you could either go play, if you look at the bottom half, the 5 teams, you could go play those 2 teams twice and have a crossover, and it's 1 game. But, like, why not play more teams, right? And these games aren't like complete blowouts and things like that. So it's I think it's been really good. And you had a team like Bacon last week who beat John, so like they're a 9th place team beating a 1st place team. So it does happen. I know those games could be challenges, but at the end of the day, I think competitive juices are better when you have some more teams and you're seeing different teams throughout the season, not playing teams multiple times. They've been playing in other seasons ahead or before. So really good stuff here, and hopefully we can dial back in on some of the social stuff and get that rolling again. So that's it for this kind of update. Check out the Sunday Silver playoffs and last week of that Sunday season, and then followed up by the last week of the regular season for the WNHL.